On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 lifted off from Kuala Lumpur just after midnight. The weather was calm. The flight path was routine. And for the 239 people on board, it should have been an ordinary journey. But only 40 minutes after takeoff, the aircraft vanished from civilian radar. No distress call. No emergency signal. And no sign of trouble. What followed was a chain of events so strange, so unexplainable, that investigators around the world are still searching for answers. This is the mystery of Flight 370, a disappearance that challenges everything we thought we knew about modern aviation. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 was a routine overnight flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. It was operated by a Boeing 777, one of the safest and most reliable aircraft ever built. On board were 239 people, including passengers, crew, and families returning home. The weather was calm, the aircraft was in perfect condition, and the flight crew was experienced. The planned route was simple: take off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport, fly northeast over the South China Sea, pass Vietnam's airspace, and continue toward Beijing. Nothing about this route was unusual. Thousands of flights follow the same path every year without issues. For the first 40 minutes, MH370 behaved exactly as expected. The flight climbed smoothly to cruising altitude. Communication with air traffic control was normal. Everything appeared routine. But just minutes after crossing into Vietnamese airspace, everything changed. Air traffic controllers expected MH370 to check in with Ho Chi Minh Control, but the call never came. Vietnam tried again. Still nothing. At the same moment, the aircraft's transponder, the system that shows a plane's identity and altitude, suddenly switched off. This meant MH370 disappeared from civilian radar. Only military radar could still see it, and what it showed was shocking. Instead of continuing toward Beijing, the plane made a sharp turn back across the Malaysian peninsula. It then flew westward, completely off its planned route, with no communication, no transponder, and no explanation. What followed was a silent flight across the night sky, a flight that no one could see, no one could hear, and no one could understand. For the next several hours, MH370 traveled on a path that made no sense, heading into some of the most remote airspace in the world. For hours after it disappeared from civilian radar, MH370 continued flying into the darkness. But there were still traces, small signals that would later become the key to understanding what happened next. Long after the plane stopped talking to air traffic control, an unexpected source detected it, Inmarsat, a British satellite company. Their satellites received a series of automatic handshakes from MH370's communication system, signals that quietly confirmed the aircraft was still airborne. These handshakes didn't reveal the plane's exact position, but they did reveal distance. By analyzing these signals, investigators discovered that MH370 had flown for nearly 7 more hours after it vanished from radar. The satellite pings created 2 possible flight corridors, a northern route towards Central Asia, and a southern route into the Indian Ocean. Only one of them made sense. When investigators compared fuel limits, flight dynamics, and radar data, they concluded the plane had gone south, toward one of the most remote and unforgiving stretches of ocean on Earth. The conclusion that MH370 had gone south triggered one of the largest search operations in aviation history. Dozens of ships, aircraft, and deep-sea vessels were sent into the Indian Ocean, a region so remote that even satellites rarely capture it. At first, investigators believed the plane had crashed along the seventh arc, a curved line created by the final satellite handshake. This arc became the focus of an underwater search spanning more than 120,000 square kilometers of ocean floor. Months turned into years. And despite advanced sonar, underwater drones, and international cooperation, the main wreckage of MH370 was never found. But something did appear. Beginning in 2015, pieces of debris began washing up on beaches across the western Indian Ocean, in places like Réunion Island, Madagascar, and Mozambique. Several of these pieces were confirmed to be from MH370, proof that the plane had entered the Southern Ocean. Yet even with physical debris in hand, the exact location of the crash, and what happened in the final moments of flight, remained unknown. With no clear wreckage and limited data, investigators began examining the most difficult question of all: what actually happened on board MH370? Over the years, several theories have emerged, some grounded in evidence, others in speculation. One of the leading possibilities involves the flight crew. Some experts believe the captain may have deliberately changed course, depressurized the aircraft, and flown south until the fuel ran out. However, no decisive proof has ever confirmed this scenario. Another theory suggests a sudden loss of cabin pressure. In this case, everyone on board could have fallen unconscious due to hypoxia, leaving the aircraft to fly on autopilot until fuel exhaustion. But this still doesn't explain the unusual turns the plane made after losing contact. There are also theories involving mechanical failure, fire, or even a catastrophic electrical issue, events that could disable communication systems. Yet none of these fully align with the satellite data or the long flight into the Southern Ocean. More speculative ideas, including hijacking or military intervention, have circulated online for years. But none of these theories are supported by solid evidence. Today, the truth remains elusive. Every theory raises new questions, and none of them fully explain the mystery of MH370. More than a decade has passed since MH370 disappeared. Despite satellites, sonar, international search teams, and years of investigation, the truth remains out of reach. We have fragments of the aircraft, a reconstructed flight path, and a timeline of the final hours. But the key questions, why the plane changed course, who was in control, and what happened in the final moments, are still unanswered. For the families of the 239 people on board, the mystery is not just an aviation puzzle, it is a human tragedy that continues with every passing year. Today, MH370 stands as one of the greatest mysteries in modern history. And until the wreckage is found, the full story of what happened that night will remain hidden beneath the waves.